Good morning. It's Tuesday, May 20th. I'm Teddy, and you are listening to Messy Mocha or Unwind with Teddy. I thought, you know what? Let me take a few moments to catch up on today's news, 5 things that you should know, and D for Diddy. So go ahead, grab your cup, and let's sip this mocha up. Mm. That one was called Coffee Break. It's by Gregory David. So, the 5 things that you need to know that I need to know for this May 20th. Let's start with Russia, Ukraine, Israel, and of course, there's something about a congresswoman charged. Also, what is this about? Abandoned chicks or AI regulations? Yeah. So, wow. I'm looking over this. And let's begin with the first one. President Trump spent 2 hours on the phone with Vladimir Putin on Monday, hoping to learn when the Russian leader was going to end his war in Ukraine. However, no timeline was offered. Afterward, Trump posted on social media that Kyiv and Moscow had agreed to immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire. So while there were talks, it didn't get there yet. Although a Kremlin spokesperson said Trump and Putin did not discuss a time frame for a possible truce, despite Trump's repeated assertions during his presidential campaign that he could end the war in 24 hours. He is now backing away from a direct mediating role, saying that negotiating the conditions for a ceasefire would be left to Ukraine and Russia. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who also spoke with Trump on Monday, said his goals were clear: full ceasefire without any conditions or preconditions, an exchange of prisoners, and the return of Ukrainian children who were forcibly taken to Russia. Overnight, Ukraine and Russia accused each other of launching even more attack drones. Well, that strike, if it's all verified, that certainly isn't going to move the two toward you know the table and signing. All right, on to Israel. Canada, France, and the United Kingdom are threatening to take concrete actions, including targeted sanctions, if Israel doesn't stop its renewed military offensive in Gaza and continues to block humanitarian aid from entering the enclave. Since Israel launched the offensive in northern and southern Gaza over the weekend, more than 400 people have been killed and over 1,000 others injured. That was according to a CNN count of this week's Palestinian Ministry of Health data. Amid this increased pressure from allies, Israel announced it would allow 5 trucks into Gaza. 5 trucks into Gaza? I'm thinking, 5? Only 5? When you think of the amount of people that need aid, I mean, it is trucks coming in, but, well, let me continue. UNAID Chief Tom Fletcher described the delivery as a drop in the ocean of what is urgently needed. Next, a congresswoman charged. The Justice Department has charged Democratic Representative LaMonica McIver with assaulting federal law enforcement during a protest outside an ICE detention facility. On May 9th, Representative McIver, Bonnie Watson Coleman, and Robert Menendez Jr. visited the facility in Newark, New Jersey. You may have heard about that last week, because they said it was not up to date on necessary permits. At the end of the visit, Newark Mayor Ross Baraka tried to join them and walked inside the facility's gate. Federal agents told Baraka to leave, then began to detain him once he left the fenced-in area. When the lawmakers and other protesters tried to stop the arrest, pushing and shouting ensued. Baraka was handcuffed, taken into custody, and charged with trespassing, but those charges were later dropped. It is unclear whether the DOJ will charge Coleman and Menendez Jr. as well. On to AI regulations. One of the items in President Trump's One Big Beautiful Agenda bill is sparking protests, and it involves the regulation of artificial intelligence. If passed, the rule would prohibit states from enforcing any law or regulation related to AI models, systems, or automated decision systems for 10 years. In response, more than 100 organizations have signed a letter that was sent to members of Congress calling the AI preemption provision a dangerous giveaway to big tech CEOs. This moratorium would mean that even if a company deliberately designs an algorithm that causes foreseeable harm, regardless of how intentional or egregious the misconduct or how devastating the consequences, the company making or using that bad tech would be unaccountable to lawmakers and the public. The letter provided exclusively to CNN ahead of its release stated. And finally, abandoned chicks. Thousands of chicks have died after they were left for days without food or water inside an abandoned postal truck. An abandoned postal truck. The reason why a truck filled with live birds was left unattended at a Delaware mail distribution center is under investigation. It is also unknown why the USPS didn't complete the delivery to the recipients who ordered the birds and were likely equipped to care for them. In the meantime, a local animal shelter has spent more than 2 weeks desperately trying to nurse and rehome the estimated 2,000 chicks who managed to survive the ordeal. Pennsylvania-based Freedom Ranger Hatchery raised the chicks for their weekly distribution to clients across the country, and due to biosecurity concerns, cannot take the chicks back. Well, let's see that. Wow. Well, maybe someone will get to the bottom of why that truck filled with all of those live birds was left unattended and didn't make its travel. All right, let's take a quick break, and then I'm going to get into just a little bit of the highlights from Monday's takeaways from the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Give me just a moment. Okay, I am back. I'm just reading over some of these takeaways that is in the entertainment section. There's a lot of news. Of course, many of you know about this Sean Diddy Combs trial. I have not been following it day by day by day, but I wanted to take this morning just to touch on some of the highlights and takeaways from this trial. Mhm. So, Don Richard and witnesses, it appears, have bolstered Cassie Ventura's testimony. I think Don Richards is a friend. Pop singer Don Richards, Ventura's former best friend. I guess we should say that. And one of Combs' former assistants each testified about their interactions with Ventura as the prosecution sought to bolster Ventura's testimony last week that Combs physically abused her and controlled her life for over a decade. Again, this is fair use commentary. Um, this morning's discussion about this is for education, criticism, news reporting, and entertainment purposes only. I should also say, because of the nature, perhaps, of some of the testimony, I won't be reading it. And I may also, kind of pause as I'm reading to, let's just say, mm, choose. Choose a different word to substitute, not necessarily the meaning, but, um, just so that my audience can hear this and so that it, meets within YouTube guidelines. Okay. So let's continue here as I look over. Cassie Ventura is no longer on the stand, but she was the central character in testimony from 3 witnesses on Monday in this federal criminal case against Sean Diddy Combs. The prosecution alleges that Combs and some in his inner circle used threats, violence, drugs, bribery, arson, kidnapping, and lies to coerce Ventura and another woman into participating in what he called freak offs and to protect the music mogul's reputation. Good morning. I see a little more of you coming in. I see my moderator, Baby Juju, says good morning. Teddy and Ma, well, good morning to you. In contrast, the defense has contended that Combs was at times jealous, had substance abuse issues, and described his relationship with Ventura as mutually violent, as opposed to the head of an organized criminal enterprise. They have also argued the women consented to these actual arrangements. Combs has pleaded not guilty to racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution, and if convicted of the most serious charges, could face up to life in prison. Richard, a former member of the musical group Danity Kane, testified Monday she frequently saw Combs assault Ventura, saying she'd seen him punch, choke, drag, slap, and kick her. That would be powerful testimony if proven to be true. After one such assault in 2009, Ventura wore sunglasses to try and hide the injury. Richard said. Richard and a friend singer, Kalina Harper, also wore sunglasses to have solidarity, to be a friend, to be a support system for someone who needed it. She testified that in court. The jury saw a photo of the 3 women wearing sunglasses after the assault. Some members of Combs' security staff witnessed the violence toward Ventura. Richard testified, but when they did, they wouldn't react. They wouldn't do anything. Thank you, baby Juju. Trigger warning for mature audiences only. Can you imagine that? Again, I have not watched this portion of the trial, or what they've actually been able to show um, in court. But let me continue. Under cross-examination, Richard faced questions about her memory of the assault and her personal motives. In the start of her testimony Friday afternoon, Richard testified she saw Combs assault Ventura in 2009 in the kitchen after she was cooking eggs. The next day, Combs told Richard and another witness to remain silent, saying, quote, "Where he comes from, people go missing if they talk," she testified. Defense attorney Nicole Westmoreland suggested Richard's account of the kitchen incident and its aftermath has changed over time. Richard said she recounted it over time to the best of her recollection. Richard, 42, signed with Bad Boy Records and worked for Combs from the time period 2004 to 2011 as part of the two musical groups Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money. She testified that she felt saddened by Combs' decision to dismantle both those groups and confirm that the music she released since hasn't reached the same level of success. Richard said she reached out to Combs as recently as 2020 to work together again. Richard filed a lawsuit, by the way, last September accusing Combs of sexual battery and then harassment, harassment, and false imprisonment, among other allegations. Combs has denied the allegations. Westmoreland asked Richard if she filed a lawsuit against Combs to get a lot of money. Richard denied that, but said she wants to be compensated for the work she put forth. Combs, wearing a tan crew neck sweater, white collared shirt, and khaki pants, passed a few post-it notes to his attorney during the cross-examination. Kerry Morgan, the second witness Monday, testified that she was best friends with Ventura until shortly after she was assaulted by Combs in 2018. Right now, you can email me at unwinewithteddy@gmail.com. Please remember to be respectful in the chat. And allegedly, comments made by those of you in the chat are those of your own. I continue. He came up behind me and choked me and then boomeranged a wooden hanger at my head. This was testified by Morgan. I had finger marks on my neck. Morgan testified she was planning on filing a lawsuit after the assault but didn't do it. She met with Ventura about a month later, and Ventura told her she would be receiving $30,000 from Combs, she said. Ventura also told her she was over exaggerating, Morgan said. Morgan also said she signed an NDA. There it is. Signed an NDA or non disclosure agreement that day and hasn't spoken with Ventura since. They have been best friends since 2001. Morgan testified on cross examination, quote, "The reason I stopped speaking with her is because she was not supportive of me after that incident." I wonder, are they going to like recross? They do cross and then defense and recross with prosecution of these witnesses. I go on. Morgan said she's testifying because she was subpoenaed and didn't want to be in court. I have moved on with my life away from all these people and the problems, she testified. On cross examination, Morgan testified that Ventura was jealous of Kim Porter, the late actress who shared 3 children with Combs, and of Combs' other girlfriend, Gina. So there was an ex-friend vividly remembers 2 assaults. And I see pictures of this Kerry Morgan I'm looking at as she arrives at the court on Monday. She was wearing, you know, sunglasses or shades, a collared up. It looks like a kind of maybe a soft lavender pink um, that she was wearing, looking forward straight ahead as she arrived. Now, this picture that I'm looking at right now, it was taken by the Associated Press, Ted Shaffrey. Morgan also said she vividly remembered 2 incidents in which Combs assaulted Ventura and said he was not intoxicated or under the influence of on either occasion. During one of the assaults, Morgan asked one of Combs' security guards to intervene, but he responded that he wasn't going to do anything. Well, that's what she testified. I see Gia Papaya. I think you were the first in the Bear Cave this morning. Good morning to you. Says, I wish I could watch the trial live. Well, it's out there. I guess on different, televised and or channels. Um, at least portions of it, I think. And I have witnessed various, there are content creators on this platform who are, discussing, talking about, showing clips, and others giving commentary on it. The other assault occurred in Jamaica around 2013 when Combs dragged Ventura by the hair and pushed her to the ground where she hit her head on the brick walkway, Morgan said. These alleged attacks and assaults, they seem quite, violent. They do. Combs had complained Ventura was taking too long in a bathroom before dragging her down the hallway. Did we witness that? Did we see that? Yes. Diddy is a monster. I see that being put in the chat. I go on. I heard Cassie screaming, so I ran into the hallway where she was, she said, describing the screams as guttural. Wow. He dragged her down, probably like a 50-yard hallway, by her hair, then took her out in the front driveway and pushed her down, where she then hit her head on the brick, she said. After he pushed her to the ground, Ventura eventually got up and fled barefoot into a wooded area, and once Morgan found her, they hid crouched down in a ditch for what felt like hours, Morgan testified. That had to be terrifying. Terrifying. These women. What victims go through and the aftermath. It's far reaching. It really is. This was at the hotel. This assault occurred. I go on. Morgan also offered further details on the aftermath of the March 2016 assault at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles that has been central visual evidence in the case. We saw that. CNN first published video of the incident last year. I won't be showing it again. Morgan said she had been staying at Ventura's apartment at the time, and Ventura came home with a black eye. About 30 minutes later, Combs arrived yelling and banging on the door with a hammer, Morgan testified. She also said she was freaking out and called Combs' security guard and assistant, hoping they'd get him to stop. Ventura just sat on the couch, Morgan recalled, unmoved. Quoting, I don't think she cared if he came in and unalived her. She testified. Eventually, Combs left and did not gain access to the apartment. Again, just picture what was going on in that apartment, in that horrible, horrific situation, really. We saw the footage that was played on CNN. The police arrived at some point, but Ventura wouldn't cooperate with the officers, Morgan said. That often happens with and in incidents where victims of assaults are then, questioned by police and, either refuse or, discussing such details. It has to be very, very traumatic and difficult. I go on. Morgan said that she would tell Ventura to leave Combs, but she would say she couldn't. Because of her job, her car, her apartment, he controlled everything. She would have lost all of her livelihood, Morgan said. Dave James, a former assistant to Combs, was the third witness of the day and testified similarly about a conversation he had with Ventura in Miami around 2007. Man, this lifestyle is crazy, Ventura said. According to James, he agreed and suggested she leave. Let me just look at something really quickly. Hang on for one moment. Okay, let me go ahead and continue. You know what? It's just about 9 o'clock, just about the time when I thought we would wrap things up. So let me go ahead and do that with ending this short commentary. Man, I go back to what Ventura said. This lifestyle is crazy. According to James, he agreed and suggested she leave. I can't. I can't get out, Ventura told him, James said. She went on to say that Combs controlled her music career, paid for her apartment, and gave her an allowance, James testified. Quoting, I just didn't think that she could easily leave. Finally, James described Kim Porter as Combs' main girlfriend and then listed four other women, including Ventura, as his other girlfriends. He testified that one time a business associate asked Combs about Porter and Ventura, and Combs responded that Porter was doing well and described her as his queen, James said. Combs then described Ventura as moldable and said, I got her right where I want her. She's young, James testified. An incredible testimony coming from all of these witnesses. Now, let me come out to the beer cave, take a look at any comments, and wrap up this morning's messy mocha with all of you. I appreciate that you've joined me this morning. Gia says, Diddy is never getting out of jail. Innocent until proven guilty. I wonder how long this trial will last, how many witnesses will take the stand, and when the defense and will rest its case or prosecution against Diddy Combs. The prosecution rests its case against him. Are you surprised to hear any of these witnesses who are coming forward right now? Some being subpoenaed. Yeah. That's what subpoenas are for, is to, discover witnesses and uncover what, even if reluctant, what went on, and, examine all of the evidence. In this case, I imagine mounting evidence. Yeah. Okay. As I go up these comments, it looks like we're pretty good for this morning. I also see Nicole Shaw entered the chat. Kenzo says it's nighttime here in Melbourne, Australia. Yes, someone else from Melbourne has often visited us, Miss Redhead, I believe. So, yes, always like 12, I think 12 or 13 hours, depending on where you are in Australia. Okay. See if there's anything else. Good morning to Rare Groove. Who says, and she didn't until 2018. What does this come forward? All right. So I've read your comments. I've checked my email. And I have a very busy day ahead of me as well. So with that being said, it's 9:01. Biggest bear hugs go out to each and every one of the grizzlies and the honey bears. We mustn't forget the honey bears this morning. Please hit the like on your way out of the bear cave. Email me at unwinewithteddy@gmail.com. I hope to come back sometime later tonight for Analyze This, because somebody has to say it. Please keep your bear phones on. Remember to check the community wall for posts. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Teddy. Have a great Tuesday.